that I think are very important for a lot of reasons, because they represent the state, they represent our county, they represent our local government, they represent our unions, they represent the people that are going to be directly affected by any actions that the governor makes regarding our prison system. And we've had a couple of additions, so if I accidentally go out of order with names, my apologies, but I would like to introduce State Senator Chris Jacobs. We also have Senator Tom O'Mara. Annie Shriko is here on behalf of State Senator Pat Galvin, who represents this district along with me, and also Senator Galvin's mom and dad, who just live in Geneseo, New York. Dick and Sally are with us as well, representing the senator. We have Brian Menkelo here. He's the assemblyman from the Lyons area. We have Kathy Button here, who's president of Region 6 for CSEA. Justin Hill is here on behalf of the District Attorney's Office, representing District Attorney Greg McCaffrey. Mike Powers is here, representing NYSCOBA, the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association. Marie Fisher is here, representing PEF, the Public Employee Federation. From our county government, we have Dave Lefevre, who's the Livingston County Chairman of the Board of Supervisors. We have Dan Pingrazio, who's Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee for this county. And we have town supervisors. Brenda Donahue got sidetracked because something about having a brand new grandbaby she went to see. But her hearts and souls are with us. And we have from Geneseo, Will Wadsworth, from Groveland, Bill Carmen, from Leicester, Dave Finero, from Lima, Mike Falk, from Mount Morris, the Honorable Charles DePasquale, from North Dansville, Dennis Mayhes, from Nunde, Marilee Walker, from Portage, Ivan Davis. We have the Mount Morris Mayor, Frank Provo. And we also have, I just went brain dead on one person I'm missing, so I'll probably be coming back to them in a little bit. But we have a phenomenal group here today for one purpose. Nobody here wants to create any illusion that we can change the world. We're here because we want to make sure that state government, that the governor, that the Department of Corrections and the commissioner of the department know and understand the impact that this potential closure is having on our community, and also understand the ramifications, not just to the people who work in the Livingston County Correctional Facility, but also that work in the Groveland Correctional Facility. Behind me, on the other side of the corner, kitty corner, is Livingston Correctional Facility. It's a medium security facility built in 1991. Behind us is Groveland Correctional Facility, also a state prison at its minimum security, and they're also being impacted, even though they're not the ones whose names are, whose institution is being mentioned in the paper. And we'll talk later about how people are being bumped all over the place, potentially all over the state, and why this has impacts on our entire community. Yep. Of course, the wind's going to kick up now just because we're going. This all started when last Friday I received a call from the Commissioner of Corrections just about noon, telling me that they were just about to start a press conference, no notice, and that press conference would indicate that 2 correctional facilities were closing in this state, Livingston Correctional Facility and one downstate, a small prison downstate. This was the biggest one. When I spoke, and that they would be closed effective September 1st. When I requested a justification and an explanation, I was told that the number of inmates in the prison system is declining, that Governor Cuomo's goal was to eliminate 1,200 beds this year that he considered to be unused beds, and that the state budget, which I did not vote for, allowed Cuomo to close up to 3 prisons in 90 days, within 90 days notice. When I asked what was the reason Livingston Correctional Facility was designated, we were told poor facility conditions. I thought you'd find that was humorous. No public hearings, no advance warning, no reason that made sense. To those of you who live and work here, and I know we have a bunch of retired and current employees, I was absolutely outraged. I was beside myself. I wasn't particularly polite or diplomatic on the phone. But in my outrage, you had to see and look at, well, why were we closed? And quite frankly, I don't believe Livingston Correctional should be closed. I also don't think any state prison should be closed. Specifically with Livingston Correctional Facility, thanks. Take your time.
All right, thanks.
Take your time. We'd like to welcome Channel 10. Yay! Thank you very much. And we do welcome you. We welcome all the press, because this is important. Again, I don't think that Livingston Correctional should be closed. I also don't think any state prison should be closed. And no information has been provided that, in my mind, justifies any closure of any prison. When we stand here today, all of us that are here, stand here in support of our correction officers and the civilian staffs, not just of Livingston Correctional, but also of Groveland and every other state prison, because there's going to be ramifications and trickle down everywhere. And the prison closure is absolutely unjustified. Our corrections officers and other employees, these are the unseen members of law enforcement, because they're behind those prison walls and those fences. You don't see them like you see our other officers out on the street. They're out of sight, and I regret sometimes out of mind. But they're dealing with some of the most difficult situations imaginable behind those walls. And that's why it's important that we are here doing our best to fight for all of the people who work in that facility. Our corrections, on March 23rd, I actually toured Livingston Correctional Facility. I came down at the request of correction officers who wanted me specifically to look at the prison for the purpose of double bunking. That's a practice of taking bunk beds where there should be 1 bed, putting in bunk beds so that 2 inmates occupy the space that should be occupied by 1. It's a dangerous practice. But interestingly enough, I did get to see that, and again, we'll talk about that in a second, but the superintendent took me on a very extensive tour of the facility, inside and out. And I saw the inside of the facility firsthand. In fact, the superintendent went to great lengths to show me what a great facility it was and what phenomenal condition it was in. How ironic that a month later, they're saying it's in poor condition. The superintendent showed me all the upgraded electrical systems so that there are now charging stations for the inmates who now have laptops. And in January of this year, a $8.4 million taxpayer-funded water project was substantially finished to bring water from Hemlock Lake to both prisons. It still isn't hooked up yet, because there's still an additional $350,000 that has to be put into a treatment facility before they'll actually turn the water on. So while we've spent, as a state, taxpayer money, $8.4 million to bring water from Hemlock Lake to here, it still isn't operational. And now half of the reason for bringing that water up is closing. Right now, as we stand here, they're spending $5.5 million on a new roof for Livingston Correctional Facility. Literally, as we're standing here, they're putting on a new roof. And that work is going to continue long after the prison's closed. Another phenomenal waste of good taxpayer money if the intention was to close this facility. And again, this money goes on and is continuing to be spent even though the prison is going to be closing. You know, Governor Cuomo claimed that the closure of 2 prisons would save $20 million in the next fiscal year. But I'm not quite sure how we get there when so many millions of dollars have already been spent in the last year or two, and even right now, on a facility that's going to be closed. I think the citizens of our entire state should be outraged at this utter waste of our money. This facility is in good condition. I saw it myself a month ago. The facility is also almost at full capacity, and they're double bunking, which is something they use with overcrowding. And it also told by numerous sources that it's one of the least expensive facilities to operate in terms of staffing and energy consumption. And I believe there's only 2 facilities in the entire state that are newer than Livingston. Livingston was just built in 1991. It's one of the newest prisons in this state, yet it's the one in poor condition, ready to be closed. Again, there's no reason why this facility should close or any facility. What I saw in that facility that I want to talk about, because it does reflect on the closing, is the double bunking. And I know that the senators and probably the union reps are going to talk about it also. But again, that's the practice of having a bunk bed with 2 inmates in a spot designed for 1. Corrections officers are extremely concerned that this practice is a safety danger. Safety and overcrowding go hand in hand. The more overcrowding, the more dangerous, the less safety, not just for the corrections officers and staff, but also for the inmates. At the end of the day, everyone wants to be able to go home. And I personally witnessed this dangerous housing practice. If double bunking were eliminated, those 1,200 beds, unused beds that Governor Cuomo claims exists, would be filled. We need to mandate proper housing of inmates so that our prisons are safer for our staff and the inmates. There's no need to close this prison or any others. At this point, I'm going to turn the mic over to Senator O'Mara, who's going to have a couple of comments, and then we'll continue moving on. Senator O'Mara?
Thank you, Assemblywoman Burns. Marjorie, great job in organizing this in short notice, and I want to thank everybody for coming out here to show your support for Groveland today, for our correction officers of Niscoba, for our civilian and professional staff from CSEA and PEF. I'm proud to stand here with all of you today to fight this unwarranted closing of Livingston Correctional Facility. You know, Marjorie said it all. She covered everything in her opening remarks for this. It's just an honor to be here to stand with my friends and colleagues from the legislature and from Niscoba, PEF, and CSEA. I also bring greetings from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, who has been a strong advocate for our prison employees over the years. If there was any way he could have been here today, he would have been here today. So I bring Phil's regards as well. But it truly is unwarranted to close this facility. With the number of double bunks and the unsafe conditions that represents, you know, but it goes in standing with the new Democrat leadership we have in Albany, with the Democrats controlling the state Senate now for the first time in over a decade. That really a lot of things have been done this year to protect the criminal. In many ways of what's been done in the budget this year and in other legislation, it's really been a criminal bill of rights this year of what's coming out of Albany. This is just one more example of it. There's no need to be closing these beds at this facility. The double bunking is dangerous for our correction officers. It's dangerous for the inmates themselves. And if these liberals in Albany really care about the conditions for the inmates, they will do away with double bunking and make sure that the beds are available so that double bunking does not have to be done. Thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you, Senator Romero.
Assemblyman Menklow.
Thank you, Senator. First of all, I'd like to thank Assemblywoman Marge Burns for putting this together. But as we stand here today, understanding what's going on, as a former town supervisor, county legislator back in Wayne County, we had a correctional facility in our county as well. About 10 years ago, they came in and said they were going to close it down, and they did shut it down. And what's really going to hurt here is not only our correctional officers and their families, but also the communities that are revolve around this institution here. It is going to be so hard for these communities with these family members leaving, thinking about all the things that trickle down from losing a facility. It's not only the schools, the hospitals, the doctors, the stores, all the fun things that go on in the community like this. And speaking about economic development, upstate New York needs every single job that we can keep. So I will work hard with my colleagues from the Senate, my colleague from the Assembly, and also continue to fight for this facility. Let's not give up yet. It's not a done deal. He says yes, but if we fight, we can make our words be heard. So again, Assemblywoman, thank you so much for putting this together. My hat's off to all of you, and may we do what's best for this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Burns. Thank you for the opportunities to say a few words. My name is Chris Jacobs. I'm a state senator, and great to be here. Unfortunately, not great to be under this circumstance. First, $5 million to put on a new roof, and then you shut it down. That really describes New York State and why we're so screwed up, because we do those sort of things all the time. I wanted to first thank everybody for being here, all the elected officials of various level of governments, NYSCOBA, PEF, and CSEA. Special hello to CSEA. I worked very closely with CSEA while I was the Erie County clerk. All the good we did to turn that operation around was because of partnership with CSEA, so great to see you. I just wanted to quickly say everything that should have been said, it has been said. I think that we should continue to fight. We had a good win in Erie County with the Children's Psychiatric Center, which was supposed to be closed, and with good work, with partnership with labor, we were able to get the governor to turn that around. So I don't think we should give up at this point in time. We should keep fighting. It was talked about the double bunking. That is really the case. If they were doing the humane thing for the inmates, but also the safe thing for the workers, they would end that. And they would end that, and we would not have excess capacity. But I really think there's a grander plan here. The grander plan is what Senator O'Meara touched about, that the focus has been on defending the criminal and not defending those who abide by the law and those that enforce the law. And I think one goal here is if they can shut down more prisons, that eventually it cause a problem with the capacity to keep prisoners in who have not completed their term, and it will start pushing them out back into neighborhoods and back in the street before they have finished their terms. We're seeing that right now with the parolees going on, with proposals to parole anybody over 55, no matter what they've done, no matter how much longer are left on their terms. So we need to fight this for many reasons, and I did talk to Senator Galvin. Annie's here to talk in his remarks, but you have no greater advocate than Senator Galvin, the head of corrections, or the minority ranker now. But he also mentioned if there is a closure, the Senate, when we were in charge, we demanded a minimum a year before anything would be closed to allow families and workers to adjust. I understand this is going to be 90 days, so this really sends a terrible message. So we need to fight on every front. I'm prepared to work and do everything I can. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today.
Good morning. My name is Annie Chiwiko, and I am very proudly a community representative for Senator Pat Gallivan. He had a previous commitment in Erie County, otherwise he absolutely would have been here today. As many of you know, Senator was Erie County Sheriff prior to running for the Senate, and with his vast experience in law enforcement, it is an understatement to say that he is deeply disappointed by the decision of DOCS to close the Livingston Correctional Facility. In his words, "It is unfortunate that this administration is moving ahead with plans to close facility while still allowing thousands of inmates to house in double bunks. If this administration was truly concerned about maintaining a safe environment for those who work and live inside our correctional facilities, before decisions are made to close prisons, we should end the practice of double bunking." Senator Gallivan has introduced legislation, Senate Bill S1334, in an effort to prohibit double bunking. He recognizes the very difficult circumstances that face the hard-working people and public servants at the Livingston Correctional Facility. He's concerned about the impact that it will have on the community, the dedicated men and women that work there, and their families. Senator Gallivan and Assemblywoman Burns will be meeting with the DOCS Commissioner in the very near future in an effort to do everything they can to reverse this decision. Finally, he will continue to work with DOCS and the dedicated union of police unions to ensure the best possible outcome for all those affected. Thank you for coming today.
This is Dave Lefevre, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors for Livingston County, to talk directly about what our county government is doing to fight for our citizens.